What has actually changed for me now is the realization when I'm there that nobody else would take care of these kids. What it's given me the perspective of is kids are kids all over the world. They're exactly the same. There's just some that are born a whole lot luckier than others.
Healing the Children Northeast is a not-for-profit organization. We send teams of surgeons, anesthesiologists, pediatricians, nurses, technicians, dentists to operate on children with facial defects, cleft palates, cleft lips, severe burns, and what other types of facial disfigurements they may have been born with, or sustained injuries as a result of trauma or disease.
We have to assemble a team where you have every base covered in advance. Then we start to gather the equipment. And then we'll come together and pack all of that into suitcases. Usually we'll end up with like 35 or 40 suitcases. We'll show up in a hospital and have 150 kids waiting for us when we get there. The surgeons will look at them to see, is this the kind of child who needs the operations that we're prepared to do there? When the kids go to the operating room with a mouth that is abnormally wide open, or a nose that is abnormally connected to the mouth, they've been breathing through a great big opening, and when they come out of the operating room now, they've been completely closed down and they can't breathe. So in the operating room, they're all fine, and then they come out, and it's my job with the nurses in the recovery room to make sure these kids can breathe as they're waking up and going forward from there. And then at the very end, I get to go and say, everything's fine now. This is when they finally can feel relaxed enough. Just the total outpourings of gratitude then are tremendous. So that's probably the best part of the job.
I have an interesting background. I grew up in a place called Sri Lanka. There was a lot of ethnic conflict in that area of the world. And so for me to be able to escape all of that and come to the United States, where I went to school and became a doctor, I think is pretty incredible, pretty lucky. And so for me to be able to do something to help other kids who are disadvantaged and who have these terrible facial deformities is very, very gratifying. It's a way to give back to the local community as well as to the world, because I think I'm very lucky to be where I am. When you can help a child who has a terrible deformity and with cleft lip and palate, which we do a lot of, they can't eat, they can't speak correctly. So being able to fix that is always amazing. I see the kids when we screen them, and then I see them after the surgical procedure in the recovery room, and usually the mom or dad is there and they're crying and they're overjoyed. But that's why I keep going back, because I think even making a little bit of a difference in a kid's life is very gratifying.
Last year, on our way to Peru, I had gotten a call from a mother whose baby was born in Boston and was being taken care of at Boston Children's Hospital. And he was born with multiple congenital defects. When you look at them all together, we call it Bacterial syndrome. But with this, a couple of problems that are particularly bad. The main one being severe congenital heart disease. There's a lot of problems with the heart that if they don't get fixed, ultimately the child won't be able to live. I knew I was going to be taking care of this child and meeting this child when I got back from Peru, and knowing that he was being taken care of in probably the most sophisticated pediatric hospital in the world. On the day that we were screening patients, a little baby came in who was about 7 months old, only weighed about 10 pounds, and the baby was blue, completely blue. And when I listened to his heart, had a terrible murmur. Of this baby born without thumbs had the same exact problems that the baby that I knew I was going to meet from Boston Children's had. The difference is, where I was in Peru, I had to tell that family, no, we can't operate on your child because the heart is so bad, and unless we can get your baby's heart fixed first, there's no way that we can operate on the lips and the palates. Now that family had traveled 3 days to get to where we were in Peru, in a group of other families that we had brought. We raised funds to be able to bring these families. And so they were there with several other kids. They had to wait around for all the other children and go home with the other families, bringing their child home who have just been told your baby has a heart problem that's so bad that she probably won't be able to survive.
The first trip that I was on in Belize, only the first 3 villages when you get away from Punta Gorda have electricity. And there was a boy that somehow, through word of mouth, heard that we were in Punta Gorda and we were operating on children. He was 18 years old and he suffered from a very disfiguring cleft lip. And actually to the point that he felt somewhat ostracized in his home village, and he actually left his village and went to live in a different one. But when he heard about us, he got on a bicycle at 2 o'clock in the morning and he rode to Punta Gorda. We normally would not operate on older children if we have a lot of younger children to work with, but we felt that this was really a special case. And we did operate. We brought him into the operating room. Within 2 hours, we changed his appearance. He went back to live in his own village, had a girlfriend. I assume is married now. That affected me on my first trip, and I've carried that with me ever since. I really feel that I'm giving something back. It is amazing when you see how a child's life will be changed forever in probably about 2 hours.
When I'm working on the missions with Healing the Children, I work in the operating room. Usually I help to coordinate the surgeries. When we get there, we set up the operating rooms and make them flow like what we're used to here in the United States so that we can provide the highest level of care for the children. My life has been affected by helping these children. First of all, I get to take care of them. Some of these children would never ever get this level of care or get treatment if it wasn't for us to go there and do it for them. So I feel like I'm making a difference in their lives.
In Thailand, when you hand a child, when you do anything for a child, everybody bows to you. And I handed a little girl a stuffed animal when we were just screening initially, and she gave a beautiful bow that I took a picture of. That picture became a poster that was used in Peru. So this girl was from Thailand, and here we were in Lima, Peru, on the coast. And a man had seen the flyers from that poster, sent it to his cousin in the Amazon, on the other side of the Andes. And that mother brought her child across the Andes all the way down. It took her 7 days to be able to travel there. But she was brought there because of a picture of a kid from Thailand, brought a kid from the Amazon to the coast. We were also touched by her traveling so far that everybody said, oh, we'll buy you a plane ticket to go back home again. And as we offered the money, she said, no, she'd rather take the bus. If you're going to give me that money, I can go home and buy some land. I can actually use it for something useful. So for what we would think of as a terrible inconvenience, the $150 that we were going to give her would be a life-changing kind of thing.
It really is amazing when you can make a difference in somebody's life who otherwise would not have the help. So I think it's definitely worthwhile doing.
What I would love for people to learn from the information that I can share is the real understanding and appreciation that there is a very big world out there, and lots of people who are born who don't have the advantages that we have. It's not easy for us to see it here. We're pretty sheltered from it. We can become so isolated and so insulated from that kind of a world out there. But I'll tell you, as a pediatrician, having seen kids here and going there and seeing babies or toddlers or 4-year-olds or teenagers, they're exactly the same as they are here. They just weren't born as lucky as we were.